Friends, first of all, I must say that I am extremely delighted to be here. A very, very good afternoon to you all, and I must say that I am extremely delighted to be here with you. In fact, the main temptation for me while agreeing to come for this was that I understood that it was an interactive session, and I thought I will benefit immensely from the views expressed by you all. So I really don't have too much to say right now. I think quite a lot has been covered, but I would maybe, I'll just say a few things. One is that one thing I think I should mention, because I'm speaking in a forum of CII for the first time after taking over. As I spoke once, but at that time I deliberately sidestepped telecom. I spoke in summit, but I would like to say a few. I will make a few general observations about the sector. You see, this sector, in fact, has been very often showcased as an important, perhaps the most important success story which India is scripted as a part of its liberalization drive. There was, the breakneck speed of growth. I don't know how much the CAGR will come out, but going up from 40 million to 900 million, it should be some 50% or more of CAGR. And if the economy is growing at 7-8%, and this one indicator is growing at 50%, it had to actually pause for taking some breath, to catch up breath, and then move forward again. And it was actually, I think, looking for some excuse to pause. So some excuse did come, and it did pause. But the good thing is that the industry recognizes that this is over, and we have to now put it behind us. And we need to see what is it that the future holds for us. And I think there is broad consensus here that the future, the headroom really lies now in data. And that is where I think the whole industry needs to see this is where the big bucks are to come from. We know that telecom is a very important sector of the society, and I do understand that telecom and internet growth in this can be correlated, and I do hope that this is a causal relationship, that about 10% growth leads to about 1% growth in GDP. So the government is quite conscious of this fact that we need to address this issue, and we would like to see that there are still some legacy issues, and as far as those legacy issues are there, we would like to provide the healing touch to make sure that those issues are addressed one by one, and in a deliberate way. Sometimes one should not also try to run too fast. So, but we will see that those are addressed in a calibrated way, and with the overall objective to make sure that the sector is again in a position to assume that leadership position which it had actually taken for a long time. I would say even now it has in the economy and its growth. A number of initiatives are already in place, and these I don't want to go into those details, but these include basically the provisions which have been made in terms of the National Telecom Policy 2012, the forward movement which we want to take in terms of various other conciliatory positions in respect of our regulatory stance, and also in terms of what major thrust which the government has seen to be necessary and has provided the direction for. And I think then that brings me to this National Optic Fiber Network Program, because among the major areas, of course, I would say that as far as CII is concerned, one more important area is PMA. So I would just like to mention here one thing, that, and this is something which I tell the investors and companies of, from all over the world, some of the multinationals, that the interest of a country does not necessarily converge with the interest of those multinational companies. So it is possible that some of those the countries where this multinational is actually located, or from where it kind of originates, may have reservations on such policies, but the company has a great opportunity here. So our point is that domestic manufacture means whatever is manufactured here, it can be manufactured by a multinational company also if it establishes its production unit here in India. And I think that the preferential market access is an opportunity, because in the initial stages you need some kind of a support of an order. And saying that government procurement, wherever the capacity exists, would be through the domestic production, or defense, which has sensitivity, will be through the domestic production. We are, while being completely consistent with our WTO obligations, we are actually providing a soft landing for all the multinationals and for our own homegrown domestic industry to be able to compete with the big brothers in the world. Incidentally, we are very confident that Indian industry is very capable of doing that. And automobile industry is a very good example of what we are capable of. Because if you see, we just had a similar policy that we did not actually, we discouraged the import of cars. And the moment we started encouraging the investment by foreign companies in India to establish their manufacturing units in India, quite a few of them came up. And they are not meant only to meet the demand in India. Most of these companies, especially the new investments, are actually geared to meet the demand for investment, demand for cars in other parts of the world. In fact, Renault Nissan, which has established a unit for about 400,000 cars in India, from the beginning thought of exporting half of its production to Europe and Africa. And as a part of, even while the factory was under construction, they were already negotiating with Ennore Port, with Chennai Port, because, you know, if you want to export cars, you need to have aggregation facility at the port, because, you know, you will have to have about 20,000 cars, which comprise of one shipload, and they have to be parked there in the port. So they were negotiating so that this can be constructed, this is ready by the time they actually get into production. And you see many of the expansions, in fact, which have taken place in the car companies in India, has been targeting not only domestic market, but very significantly the foreign market. Today, many of the car designs, many components, many elements of car designing is being done in India by Indian scientists, by Indian IT experts, and so on. So we have the capacity. And even in telecom sector, we think in manufacturing, we need not be looking only at what the Indian market is. We should be able to look at what the global market is and become a very, very cost competitive supplier for these kind of products to the world. Because this is precisely what China has done. China actually just recognized this before we did, and they have put in place quite a lot of other things which provide for the good ecosystem for this. But eventually the basic thing was they recognized that the Europe production model is very expensive. And that it can be those very same things can be produced at a much smaller price. So in telecom and all the telecom equipment, we do have a similar strength, and we need to capitalize on that. So I would say that we have put in place a number of series of initiatives to work along with the industry to put India forward as not only one of the good examples to follow for making available telecom services at affordable prices to the poorest and the most deprived, but also to compete in manufacturing and making available telecom equipment. So this is broadly the thrust of all the policy initiatives which the Government of India has taken. Now coming to NOFN, I feel that, you know, it is, and I may be wrong, and I recognize that you may have a different view, but I feel that it is what the government has done is actually put in place or is putting in place a very high quality highways. And it is unlike the national highway, the brick and mortar highways, where the width of the highways was in some places, you know, width is there, but actually when it goes to, width of the highway is very high when it is connecting some of the major places, but when you go to even district headquarters, then the road available is much smaller. And when you go to Panchayat, then practically you may not even have a road. So what we are doing is making available this connectivity right up to the village Panchayat level. And once the road is constructed, it is really up to, it is available for many people to do many things with it. And this is the point here also. Even for transportation, somebody can be going on an individual car, but there can be people, you know, a lot of services can be operated. On the same road, a number of bus transport services can be actually competing with each other. On the same road, at different points, people can provide connectivity to other areas. And so on and so forth. For transportation of commercial goods, you can use the same road. So you can actually extend this analogy in a very, to a great extent, to a great deal, and not entirely, but to a great deal, to this NOFN. Because this makes available, this is the road which is available. But the kind of services which can be carried on this, and I would be somewhat, I do recognize that, you know, there is great merit in taking the other ministries and whatever services and whatever programs the other ministries of the Government of India and the state governments have, take them and use this medium of NOFN to bring it to the last mile. I do recognize that there is great scope to do that. But I would say that eventually, if it has to succeed, it will really succeed on the basis of innovation which industry can bring in. And I think the industry must not, this is my view, and this is where I said that you may or may not agree with me, that you please do not look up to the government to tell you what is the best way to make use of this road. You know better than we do. By very definition, we government servants cannot be too innovative. Because if we become too innovative, we end up where we shouldn't end up. So there is, you know, by definition, we would look for precedents, we would look for, and on the other hand, the industry can seize an opportunity. And I see innumerable things where the transaction cost for a small man is very high because today he does not have access to information. In fact, the market, as the markets are defined, they should have actually completely symmetric and perfect information. And really speaking, in India, most of the time that doesn't happen. For the villager, there is a very, very poor information which is available to him. And that increases his transaction cost for practically everything. So when I try, and when I was listening to many of these things which are being said here, I was just thinking that, yes, all this is there. All this these are all opportunities which exist and must be tapped. But even from the perspective of small man, I just want an extract of some village record. If I go to the village headquarters, it's very unlikely that I'll be able to find the officer, the village level officer who is supposed to be there at the Patwari or Karnam or whatever. If I go to the Taluk office, it's very unlikely that I will be able to again catch the person that I want. But if I do all this, I have already foregone my 1 day's wage. So for me, the opportunity cost of getting a simple piece of paper, even if the government says that it's free, it is 100 rupees. And some cases, you take the cost of travel, you take various other things, maybe it will be 200 rupees. And this is one example. There will be hundreds and hundreds of such examples where services cannot reach to the villagers except at a very high cost in terms of transaction cost. And many of those services can become available now through this network. Now, this is where I think the actual public-private partnership must start. It must start at that last mile connectivity. What are those services which the common man needs? What are those products which he needs? You know, he wants to sell his wheat. He may not know. He has a possibility of 3 mandis which are near his village, and he can go to any one of them. He has connectivity. But which one will give him the best price? Where can he get it the cheapest? If he goes to a particular fertilizer shop to get fertilizer, whether actually fertilizer is available there today or not, or insecticide is available there or not. I think all these issues are actually, these can all be monetized. All of them have transaction cost. And I'm deliberately citing the example of the lowest levels. You go to the next higher level, the person, he may be willing to pay even higher cost for the same information. So many, now education is spread, so the youth, they have a lot of hopes, lot of expectations, ideas, dreams, ambitions. And many of those things, I think this can become a vehicle. You go, even for a short while, you go to Silicon Valley and talk to anybody there. You talk to 10 persons there, you will find 3 of them thinking of setting up a startup. So what is it that makes them so entrepreneurial? I think it's largely the ecosystem. It's largely the fact that ideas can be monetized very easily. You have an idea, you develop a product, you may not be able to find a market for it, but if there is somebody who thinks of this product as a competition, he may buy it up. So I would say that we are actually at the beginning of a revolution, and what we need is disruptive thinking. We should not be thinking the way we were thinking 20 years ago. Even 20 years ago, I had heard of many of these things, of health services being delivered. I mean, I was dealing with tsunami rehabilitation work, and at that time, one of the things that you wanted to do was to make available health as this thing through telecom, and was done as a pilot. So tsunami itself was in 2004, so this is at least 10 years old idea in an industry which has a very, very high obsolescence. So my point is, and my plea to you is, to really indulge in some disruptive thinking. A thinking which completely breaks the barrier of what we are currently thinking. And actually look at what kind of revenue streams can be generated from this. And all of you should look at this. And in fact, I keep telling my friend Ravi every other day that for BBNL, you look at what are the revenue streams. Because, you know, the moment you start thinking of revenue streams, unless you have ideas, you will not generate revenue. So I would say that look at this as a huge investment which the government has made, but which can open up some completely new lines of business. And I can tell you, in all this, there will eventually be maybe a couple of or 4 or 5 national players. There will be some 4 or 5 or state level players in each state, but it will go right down to the village. There will be 4 or 5 block level players also who can do something. And it is the person, somebody who can put in place a revenue stream which can link all of it right up to him. He will be generating a new business empire, to my mind, based on this. And in the process, bringing not only prosperity to a number of others in the country, but I think what is more important, unleash the creativity which is existing in this country, in our youth, which is largely being suppressed for want of opportunities. So I would only say that this is a huge opportunity, but we really need to think completely out of the box. And well, I would be very happy to receive some of your ideas, because as I told you, that by definition, we bureaucrats, we don't try out new things. But if you give, and I think in a place where I worked earlier, I was in Tamil Nadu and I was industry secretary there, I benefited immensely from the ideas which friends from the industry brought to me. And many of them we got reflected in our industrial policy and so on. So I would be very much benefited from your thoughts and ideas, and both I and Mr. Ravi Shankar, and we would like to, and I am very happy to see that Mr. Ravi Shankar works very closely with CII, but I would also like to, on my part, assure you that we intend to work very closely with you. We need to march ahead. There is a great opportunity here, and at the same time see what the legacy problems are there, and see that how best to solve them in a very well calibrated manner, but at the same time with the big picture in mind, that we need to make telecom once again the huge success story of India's liberalization. Thank you.